Hello everyone. Today my dad spoke with a few students from Coventry College to give them a few tips on how to become good radio presenters.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Thaddeus. I'm the CEO and founder of VANNY Radio 106.3 FM. I'm a journalist and a broadcaster by profession. This morning, we'll be talking about how to present yourself and speak on the radio. Speaking on the radio comes with a great deal of work. Preparing towards a radio presentation is very great work. What happens before you start a radio program? First of all, you start from the production of the kind of program or this kind of presentation you will be performing on the radio. In terms of production, you've got to make sure whatever you're putting out there is very clear, is also acceptable to your listeners. Now, today I'll be looking at 7 points on how to present a great radio show. First of all, you must know your listeners. What do I mean by knowing your listeners? Understand everything about your audience, why they listen to you, when they listen, what they listen on, and build a comprehensive image in your mind of your listeners and who they are. Your aim is to create me too moment with your listeners, and the more you understand them, the easier that will be. Once you understand them, draw from your own experience and relate them to your listeners. People yearn to the feeling of connection that this Me Too moment can bring. Okay, let me make this a bit simpler to you. Knowing your listeners is very important. Let me give you this scenario as a radio presenter. As a radio presenter, if you know your listeners, that gives you that kind of confidence, the privilege to be able to put a great show out there to entertain your listeners. If you are presenting and you know your audience, maybe at your age currently, I could say that when you're presenting a show, you'll be presenting a show to younger generation, younger listeners. But here is the case: you are on the radio and you play maybe 60s to 70s music to an audience of 18, 17 to 25 years old. Automatically, you're driving your listeners away from the radio. So that is why it is very important you know your listeners. Who is listening to you? Where are they listening from? What are they listening on? And why are they listening to you? This point is very important. Make your listeners care is our point number 2. I believe within reason and Ofcom guidelines, you can talk about anything on the radio. But if you talk about it in a boring way, unengaging way, then no one will care. If you talk about something, make it gripping, make it a story, unleash your inner poet and turn it into something that will grab your listeners and draw them into the conversation with you. Now, if you are presenting a show, as I stated earlier, within reasons and Ofcom guidelines. I don't know if you know about Ofcom. Ofcom is the regulatory body for communication and other like BT, communication media. So they are the regulatory body. So according to them, you can talk about anything on the radio. But how you present it is very important to get your topic very interesting to your listeners. Now, another point is talking to one person. That's our point number 3. Talk to one person is very important. Why? You will know from your own experience, listening to radio, that it can be a solitary experience. Your audience is experiencing your show as individuals, not as a group of people. You've got to be avoiding terms like anyone out there, you are. Even some of you imply you are disconnected from your listener. An example of this is, for instance, especially I see this or I hear this a lot from YouTube. On YouTube, I hear some YouTube presenters saying, hey guys, or hi everyone. No, the moment you say that, it means you are just addressing like a group of people. Meanwhile, when you are a presenter, you should know everybody or each and everyone listen to radio on their own as individuals. So being a presenter and be saying phrases like, you know, hey guys, hi everyone, you are talking to a group rather than individual, because we listen to radio in a different way as individuals. So you've got to address your listeners as individuals but not as a group. The more you cultivate you and I language, the more you are likely to engage, because the listener knows very well you're talking to them as individual rather than as a group. So today we've got to be very cautious on how we use these kind of phrases. Hey guys, you know, address your listeners as individuals but not as a group. Our point number 4 this morning is going to be in charge. Be in charge. You are the host. You have a responsibility to be in control of the show at all time. Keep your audience energetic without getting forceful, and guide your listener through what you are going. Never confuse them by being overly wordy or rambling, and always try to be concise and stay focused on the current subject matter whenever you're talking. No one is going to complain if you play another song instead of talking, and sometimes few words can have a greater impact than many. Okay, let me break this down. Be in charge. You see, at times I find it very difficult when I'm listening to some presenters. They talk too much, but without saying anything at the end. It makes your presentation very boring because you're talking too much without saying anything at the end. So at times I say to myself, I would rather prefer presenters to be very brief and play more music, because I have this, should I call it a proverb that says like, the more you talk, the more likely you are to make mistakes. So if you are wise, just keep your talking very brief on the radio. Otherwise, you'll be too much repetitive on the radio. The more you talk, learn the rules, then break them. Knowing how everything is supposed to be done is great. It makes life easier and means you can just go through the motions when presenting. But it gets boring. Sticking too close to a formula gets very repetitive, and listeners are going to notice you repeating too much and going over the same thing over and over. But if you know how things are supposed to be done, you know how to change things up without even ruining your show. Variety is the spice of life. And when you need to spice up a show, breaking free of your normal routine might be just the thing. Get good at learning techniques and understanding what works for you. Rinse, repeat, then reinvent it is very important. At every show, as a presenter, when you find yourself on a radio show every day, you have the duty to always spice up the show, making the show very interesting each time you go on radio. Listeners don't want to listen to the same things. Like yesterday, you were on the radio talking about the same story, the same gesture, everything that comes out of you, the same. Then you come the whole week talking about the same things. Listeners don't want to listen to that, because at times you've got to put yourself into the listener's shoe. Make yourself a listener and ask yourself questions. If I were to be listening to this particular radio presenter, will I really enjoy the show? So that is how at times you've got to be putting yourself into your listener's shoe. Radio presenting is one of the most difficult, I may say, job. Why am I saying this? Because you find yourself in one small room, just you talking to yourself. And now you've got to imagine, are there even people listening to you? So you find yourself in a very small room, but you don't know you are talking to almost a world. Because so many people are listening to you around the world, around the clock, around your city, around your region, but you don't see them. They are invisible. You don't know who is listening. So that makes the job very, very difficult. But one thing you've got to put in your mind is to make sure you should know people out there are listening to you. So whatever you are doing at the radio station, you should know people are watching, people are listening. So don't think because you find yourself in a very small room, therefore you think you're just talking to yourself. No, you are talking to a group of people out there. Our next point is, or our point number 6, is making your mic your mate is very important. Make the most of what the microphone can do, knowing how to position your mic and how to talk into it can completely change your sound. Let me break this down for you. You see, I wish one day you'll come to the studio, then we will be able to demonstrate this physically so that you see or you understand what we're talking about. Making the mic your mate. There are reasons why you've got to position your mics in a very specific way. Getting close to the mic or too close to the mic causes problem. So you should always keep a kind of distance. At least I tell people, anytime you are using your mic or you are presenting, make sure you have this kind of distance. If you look at my hand, my right hand, keep this kind of distance between your mouth and the mic. Why? Because the mic, if you always develop the habit of keeping this kind of distance, always this distance of your palm away from the mic, you will always sound the same and sound great anytime you are presenting, because you have the habit of keeping a particular distance that makes it very clear to your listeners. Take so much of your voice. You don't have to shout into it, and make sure you are not popping your P's, S, and keep a good distance. Imagine the mic, for instance, is your friend. You wouldn't get too close to it. Breathe in their face and smack your lips at them. How am I saying it? It's just like if you make your mic as your friend in a real world. If you are my friend and I want to talk to you, I don't think you will expect me to get my mouth so close to you before talking to you. No, you wouldn't like it. So it's more or less like, I don't know, you are creating that kind of moment between you and I. So that's why always when you are in the studio, you've got to make the mic your friend, making sure you keep that kind of distance that will always sound the same out there for your listeners. Why? I advise people, whenever you find yourself in front of the mic, especially when presenting, don't develop the habit of touching the mic or even touching the mic holder, because your mic picks every little sound from touching it, or any little sound that you make from your mouth, the mic picks it up. So always give the mic that kind of freedom. Treat the mic as your friend. So every day when you go, you are presenting a good show and you have good sound quality out there. Our point number 7, which most presenters or people don't like hearing, or which is the most scariest thing you can say to any presenter, is be yourself. Be yourself. You see, in this current world, you hear some presenters um, trying to copy people, not being natural. As a presenter, you've got to be natural. You've got to be yourself. If a friend of you, for instance, asks you to speak maybe at their wedding with the line, just make people laugh and say, cue brain panic, meltdown, something like that. Cue brain panic, meltdown. You've got to be able to say this naturally for people to laugh because that's what your friend expects you to do. So if you are not natural at presenting your show, people will always notice from your presentation that you've not been natural. As some people may say, you've been fake whilst talking or presenting your show. Of course, it is imperative to be yourself, but what that means is to work to your strength rather than try to be someone you know. Don't try to be someone you're not on the radio. Be yourself. How you talk out there, just talk the same when you are on the radio. Don't try to change your voice to please maybe mimicking somebody else or trying to copy somebody else's voice. It doesn't work for you. It's not good for you. So you've got to always be yourself. Be yourself is very important. Let your enthusiasm shine through and have fun with presenting. You are on the radio. This is your show, no one else's. So whenever you find yourself on a radio, you've got to have that total command, that total confidence, and that kind of responsibility because it is your show. It is nobody else's. So you have to make your show very interesting, interactive, and getting your show very close to your listeners. Finally, the advice I always give to people whenever I'm training them is these days there are so many gadgets out there that you can record your voice as a radio presenter. Listen to your voice all the time. Grab your phone, record your voice, try to say something that and find out how does it sound. You can put it out there on all these social platforms and ask people for their opinion, their feedbacks. If any feedback that you get, it is not bad, it is good. You've got to record your voice all the time. Getting people to tell you about it is how does it sound. So the more feedback you get, then the more you can work on your voice. That brings us to the end of our interaction. Thank you. I'd like to get questions. If you have any question and if there's something you would like to know, I'm here to, answer it. So don't feel shy. Just feel free and ask any kind of question. Or if you don't understand anything, just ask. Okay, what is our audience on the station? On daily basis, we have over 3,500 listeners on a daily basis. Because what it is, we transmitting on 106.3 FM and we are also transmitting on different online platforms. So we've got about 70 to 20 different platforms online which we transmit from and also transmit physically on 106.3 FM for people within the range. That's a good question. You see, radio presenting comes with a passion. That's a very good question. To be a presenter, you've got to have a passion to be able to be a good presenter. So radio presenting comes with passion. It is passion. It is my passion to be a radio presenter. So if you have it as a passion, you do it very well. It all depends on your self. How long does it take you to be a professional presenter? It depends on yourself. I wouldn't be able to say is 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever. No. Why am I saying it depends on yourself? The more you keep practicing, it's just like any other job, any other business. The more you keep practicing, that makes you perfect. So practicing, trying to getting some voluntary work around radio. So the more you practice, that's what makes you perfect and what do you call it, a professional presenter. So it all depends on the individual. There isn't any time limit to tell someone you become a radio presenter within a year to no, you become a better radio presenter within a year or two. So it's up to you. You see, as a child, I've always wanted to be a radio presenter. Why am I saying this? Because as a child, I realized I was always playing around gadgets. At times, I will try to, I listen to radio a lot, even as a child. And I try to say some of the things that the presenters will be saying. At times, I try to be a sports presenter. At times, I try to pick words from the presenters as a child. But little did my parents know that I was going to be a radio presenter. Because I present the drive time, I use English. But there's also a local show that I used to present in African language, especially Ghanaian language, if those of you who know Akan or Chi. That I used to present, but I don't really do it any longer because I am more into the drive time show, which I could only present in English for our listeners. So I can also present in French and some of the African languages, because I can speak about 3 or 4 African languages, and I speak French and I speak English. So it depends on where you put me. What experience? Okay, I've got a lot of experience. What I'll say is my job, because it's something I always do, I've got a lot of experience. So today I see myself as a great presenter, because it doesn't matter which radio station you put me, I'm able to present. I know about equipment. If you come to the studio, I am also behind the setup of all the equipment in the studio. So I've also got experience on how to set up a radio station. I also train people on how to at least set up online radio stations. I train people, I've been training people for the past 8 years. I've trained a student from Henley College, and I currently train a student from Coventry University. The media students, I train them in their practical aspect of radio presenting. So it has given me more experience. I've been working as a radio presenter for the past 15 years, but I've had my own radio station for the past 8 years. Oh, I feel very great because with my job, I meet a lot of people. I take part in many activities, even across the city of Coventry right here. I get contact from so many organizations wanting me, for support, wanting me for maybe radio interviews, and wanting me also to be at their event, broadcasting their events live on the radio. But I said to myself, had it not me being a radio presenter, I wouldn't have been able to even meet some of the, I've met so many people across the nation because of my job as a presenter and a broadcaster and journalist. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's been great talking to you guys this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.